Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the DC Alliance podcast. Of course, I am your host, Clay, and I am always welcome with my co host, Travis. He said he took a 3 hour trip to be here. Thank you so much. And we actually have a slew of guests here. We will introduce them in just a moment, but we want to go ahead and throw all of the paperwork here. And I know I'm going to mess up,
No
so just
pressure. No
just
pressure.
expect it. So, of course, we are a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. Um, we have 7 shows. I was literally just about to mess up. We have 7 shows across 7 days a week. Of course, that includes World's Finest True Believers, Ranger Alliance, superhero discussions. No longer Katie's Day, but Katie does still have both Star Wars Alliance and Slice of Film. Joe has a new show with us called Walk Through the Multiverse. He had his first episode already covering Snake Eyes, his next episode. I am trying to get through the Netflix Transformers trilogy. I finally started it and I am already like midway through the first season, so I'm looking forward to that. I actually already threw him a show mail for that. I'm really excited to listen. And of course, we have our small little schedule changes because of everything that Marvel has been doing with the shows on Disney Plus. Marvel Alliance is live on Thursday nights, while the feed will be out in podcast form on Fridays. Now, of course, like I said, we had a little bit of a shift. No longer covering comics, or maybe we will, maybe we won't. I'm not entirely sure. But like I said, Katie is going on Sundays for Star Wars Alliance. I'm really interested to hear what her thoughts are on the part 1 finale of the Bad Batch, but also next episode of the Star Wars Alliance will actually be live, taking this spot because we were going to be taking a break due to this review. But who am I without, just adding more to my plate? Me and me and Katie are actually jumping on live on the Geekverse YouTube channel to talk Out of the Shadows, the High Republic book. And of course, we probably will talk about the Bad Batch as well. Really excited about that, re listening to that book as well. And of course, we are a listener supported network. So we will have ads during this review and, of course, throughout all of our shows. But if you don't want to listen to any advertisements, you can always join our Patreon. The Patreon is just $1 for just support, but $5 if you want that exclusive content without the ads. And I believe, Heinz, you've had some recent, like early episodes. You've been really pushing them out there for Patreon first, right? And then coming out to the regular feeds. I know that as recent as the Masters of the Universe, you were able to push that out really, really early. And do you have anything else?
First of all, I hate to break it to Superhero Discussions listeners. There will not be 2 episodes this week.
Man,
I didn't want to set the tone of that.
man.
It's been 2 weeks in a
I
row.
mean, we can do
You
a
set
whole
a good
other.
tone.
I said we can do a whole other episode of something different if you want to,
But-
Travis.
I plan on watching Justice League War again on Monday. So patrons, look for a 20 to 30-minute review of that by Thursday. And I'm going to go through the whole New 52 because I think one day that will be connected to the rebirth era that we're getting right now. Or that's what I call it anyway. So I'm going to go straight through the whole shebang, just give you, it'll be inspired by Scott Shots. So look for that, patron. That's going to be coming starting Thursday.
Very, very nice. Now, if you all heard, we do have our guest here with us today. We will go ahead and go in line of what I see here on my screen. First will be Chris from World's Finest True Believers and Marvel Alliance. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to talking about this this movie we have. Our first, I guess, DCEU post-pandemic or in pandemic or anything like for theaters at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't say post-pandemic, especially with some unfortunate news that have hit the globe recently.
Yes.
Next will be Joe from Walk the Verse. Bud, how you doing? My fellow co-host for Ranger Alliance as well.
Yes, sir. I'm doing pretty good. Seriously, don't yell at me for being late. I literally was on time, and I was sitting here waiting. I never got the message. It's not my fault. I swear.
Literally, like right when it said it's time to go live, you just popped up, and I was like, ah. But
What can I do?
we have a little bit of a SCS takeover here with us tonight. First, I want to introduce Sarah. How you doing?
I am doing well. I'm so excited to talk to you fellas. Like I said, I haven't seen a few of you in a while.
And
But,
then go ahead, Sarah. What were you gonna say?
no, I was just saying it's like it's I've had an interesting day. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to speaking about this movie because being the great mom I am, my two littles watched it with us. So yeah.
That is awesome.
Look, don't feel bad. My girlfriend let her daughter watch Deadpool on FX, thinking it was going to be edited.
Yeah, it's not.
No.
We had to cover her ears and eyes for a few parts.
Earmuffs. You can say whatever you want with earmuffs.
Oh yeah.
That is awesome. But also the man that I took his job, but we always welcome him back is Greg, the Bat Daddy 52, the man that introduced me to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. How you doing, my man?
Well, here I am. It's great to be back. Thank y'all so much for having me. Seriously, we're going to talk about this movie. I know we had a good time talking about it last night on the SCS podcast. Check that out. Show's audio drops Monday, but you can check it on YouTube. But talking about with y'all, man, this is a great cast we have here tonight. It's going to be a really fun conversation, and I'm ready to go.
Yes, so we do have a little bit. I totally forgot to text the screenshot to you, Greg. I did tag you in it in our GUA chat, but I know you're not always on Twitter. But just a little bit of the breakdown on how tonight's going to go. We're going to go ahead and talk non-spoiler, high-level thoughts to begin with. Then we will talk our favorite and least favorite parts. And then we will talk about our favorite characters and then the characters overall for this film. This is a little bit of an ensemble cast with the Suicide Squad movie. So there is a lot of characters to talk about. All in the Game says, guess a thank you is in order to that idiotic Trump fan that ended up getting James Gunn an extra paycheck and the rest of us an actual Suicide Squad movie. I'm okay with that. As weird as that comment was, I'm okay with it because this was a good movie. So I have thoughts on it. Joe has heard my thoughts.
I have.
Greg
You've
has
heard my thoughts.
But I'm ready to drop a few bombs tonight. So, or brain bombs.
I'm pushing buttons with you, buddy.
Yeah, you are.
Yep. I watched it a second time.
Game I thought about that earlier today. So
I have as well.
Let's go ahead and bring in Sarah first for your non-spoiler high-level thoughts on this film.
First of all, like I said, we watched it this morning. There was the whole family, so because my daughter was super excited to see Harley Quinn because she absolutely loves her. To me, I felt like it had kind of a slow start. There was a lot of comedy in it, so it's like I told my husband, I was like, I'm wondering when it's going to finally get its legs under it. So that was the one thing, because to me, it had a lot of like Guardians feel, like Guardians 2 feel, not Guardians 1, but Guardians 2 feel.
Okay.
Not the good one. Right?
Yeah. I mean, but like I said, it was just kind of like a slow start for me because I was just like, okay, let's see. Because there was one phrase I said literally probably about maybe a minute before Harley said it. And I'll get into that. But yes, I mean, that was probably the only thing I really had about that. But for the most part, it finally, like I said, it finally got its legs under it. Finally started rolling, and I said, "Okay, this is good. This is pretty entertaining." So, yeah, that was pretty much like my first go around thought on it. So, but I want to get more into like the spoilers. So.
All right. I will go ahead and let my co-host give his thoughts. Hines, what do you think?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I absolutely loved it. I watched it in the theater. It was full. exact same thing as Black Widow, and it was really nice atmosphere in terms of people laughing at the jokes. A lot of them were hitting with the general audience, and I was going along with the ride. I thought that I wouldn't be in for all the jokes, but a lot of them worked. There's only like maybe two things that I had issues with in this movie, honestly. There's one thing that I really fundamentally disagree with happening. It doesn't break the movie or anything for me. I absolutely love this movie. I don't, with Sarah, I didn't get the slow start because we are automatically thrusted into, because it took a little bit longer. It was a slower burn for the original Suicide Squad. And I don't want to compare too much, but I really love this film, and people may be shocked where it hits on my ranking after a second watch, but I'll have to watch the rest of the movies again. Oh no. Besides the theatrical cut of Justice League, of course. And
What is that?
I'm super excited. I can't wait to get into this movie because there's a lot of stuff that's really well done, and some things that I really think you can continue on from the first film into this one. And I'll talk about that when we get to some of the characters.
All right. And Chris, what is your high-level non-spoiler thoughts on this?
I've definitely enjoyed it. This screams James Gunn. What I thought was the trailers made it seem funnier than it ended up being, in the sense of like how much comedy people thought was going to be in it. I'm not saying this movie definitely doesn't have its comedy moments, but I think there were significant parts of this movie where it was not necessarily comedic. I definitely kind of put the Suicide Squad as a dark comedy, if anything, at that point. But there's definitely more slow down kind of serious moments than there are jokey, which people think it's kind of like what people think with Taika Waititi. Oh, it's going to be nothing but joke. And again, this movie has a good amount of jokes and jokey moments, but I think that it's more on brand for the characters at that point. It may be, for some more jokey than they would have wanted it, but it didn't necessarily get too annoying to me necessarily. But I enjoyed it.
Now, All in the Game says box office is reportedly in line of Birds of Prey, i.e. not doing well. We will be talking about that later on in the review. Most likely we will talk more about it on the next episode of DC Alliance as well, just so that way you can have a full weekend to see what it is overall. But let's go ahead and jump to Greg. What are you thinking?
Well, we talked about it last night. I had one viewing last night. I watched it the second time today, and Joe and I have similar yet different opinion or ways of watching these kind of things.
Yes.
And my way today was to have fun and just take it in. And I can't say the needle moved a ton for me today. This movie is not a terrible movie, but I was not as impressed as I thought I was going to be with it. There are some serious problems that I thought I maybe could ignore and just kind of get past. But after the second viewing, it's like, I just can't do that. And I hate to tear it down because there are a lot of great parts of this movie too. But it's just I can't wait to give the score or the letterbox score of where we're going to put this in the ranking of DCU, because I want to see what y'all have to say, because mine's pretty interesting. So
very, very nice. And of course, Joe.
I love this movie. It's really, I thought it was really good. Let's see, without giving too many spoilers or any spoilers, it was fun. It was a really good time. Let's see what
Nathan.
What
for those of you who are not watching the YouTube, of course, Nathan, always glad to have him here. Of course, he is yet another father to a wonderful little girl. He says, wasn't bad, entertaining enough, but didn't love it. Not dying to see it again at the moment. No hype for Peacemaker prequel show. Personally, and that is a-okay. Everybody has their opinions. We don't necessarily know.
And he's okay to be wrong.
Prequel.
Yeah, that's why I was like, we don't necessarily know the prequel. I was like,
I can assume that there's probably going to be flashbacks, but due to something that happened in the movie, we're not entirely sure if it will be a prequel, and we will talk about that
Yes, Bubs, you're not
Bubs
allowed to have
says
such
it was
a
my
rational
favorite
thought.
DCE movie, but I'll understand.
Rational.
Doesn't
For people
agree.
disagreeing.
Yeah, very
So
rational.
I will go ahead and share my thoughts. It was a little overhyped with everything that was coming out as
You
far
already knew that,
as
Greg.
the raving reviews the week before the movie came out, and of course the 99% Rotten Tomato score, which nobody really cares about, but it does add to the hype.
General audience does.
Yeah,
Yeah, my
So-
girlfriend used Rotten Tomatoes before.
exactly. It does bring people's interest up whenever they do see those things, so it does build that hype up even more. And so I will say it did. It was a little overhyped for me. I did enjoy some parts. I do have my nitpicks, and I won't say that it's the worst DC movie out there. I will go ahead and say that.
I agree with that.
So, with that, let's go ahead and take our very first ad break now so we can have our discussions on our favorite parts. So, remember, guys, we don't choose the ads. Recently, I've been getting a lot of local ads, which is not a horrible thing. But recently, for some reason, instead of just playing it over 2 or 3 times, it's playing over like 6 to 9 times, and it's super annoying. Hopefully that's not happening to you guys, the listeners. So ready? We will be back in 3, 2, 1. And we are back. So let's go ahead. Let's throw it to Chris. Chris, let's talk about some of our favorite parts. What's a standout part for you?
One of the standout parts would be the invasion of what became known as the Freedom Fighter Camp.
Yep.
That's the memorable part.
Yeah, there was some great dialogue in that one.
The banter between Peacemaker and Bloodsport at that point, the challenging of, their dialogue at that point was great in the sense of, that's just showing off. It's like, well, it's, showing off as cool Zeth at that point. It's like, dang it, you're right. It was cool. And just everyone kind of showcasing their powers at that point or their abilities, King Shark going, starting it all off with Nom Nom. And I think I missed it. I almost missed it the second time I saw it, I particularly watched it because I know there was so much going on. I had totally missed the first time when Peacemaker just stabs the guy as he's walking by. Just basically
I love that
shanks
scene.
him.
That scene was great.
There's so much really like it's a good contrast to the opening of the first Team 1 at that point in the sense of showcasing abilities. But the one thing I will say, I am so happy of who got killed first in this because I Pete Davidson, I'm not a fan. He annoys the heck out of me on SNL.
He didn't get killed first.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
He got shot in the face. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Oh, you're right. You're right. He did. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry.
Weasel
You're right,
died. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Air
why I don't
quote
count
died.
Weasel. Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking that. I was totally wrong. You're right.
Okay.
He did.
But-
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that was just pure thing. I can't stand him as an actor, and I was so happy that he became the Slipknot of the movie.
Actor.
So, but that was my favorite part.
Let's see. Sarah, what about you?
Oh, I think my favorite part was when Amanda Waller got smacked with the pudding club. Because you know what? I'm like, lady, I get it. I get what you're trying to do. I completely get it. But shut the F up. Because you're not seeing the bigger picture. You're like this big. You think you're seeing the bigger picture. But I love the fact that her staff stood up and was like, be quiet. Go sit in the corner and be quiet. So that was one of my standout ones. I mean, and there's like a ton more, but that was just the one where I was like, yes.
I did enjoy that as well. Because there's so many moments in this movie where the staff is kind of like questioning Amanda Waller.
Exactly.
And it's just like, would you really do that? Like, are you sure? There's like the one line where she's I think the guy's name is John, and she says, "You don't even know the half of what I would do."
Mhm.
Kind of shows to what her character is. Travis, what is one of your favorite parts?
Okay.
The build-up.
I was gonna make a joke. I was gonna say like not that one, but I'll come back around to that in the next topic. But Flag versus Peacemaker, that fight, that whole showdown, that was fantastic. The contrast. We'll get into more about Flag, but I think I know Joel Kinnaman said that he didn't treat this as a sequel. He treated this as his own thing. But I would completely disagree with him here. I think that we'll talk about it, but I really think that you can carry over his story, and he is probably the most positively affected from this movie, from the last movie to this movie, just in terms of what he was like before to now, and then to see that whole fight with Peacemaker, and then his final line is just bravo, because before the events of the first Suicide Squad, he would have been that guy. He would have been the guy that just took the piece from Waller and immediately brought it back to her and not asked any questions. But with all that stuff that happened, that completely changed him into a different person to me. And I just thought I wasn't expecting to enjoy I was thinking he was going to be a throwaway to me, and his story hit almost as much. That was probably my favorite thing. But also the back and forth Chris mentioned in the whole invasion of the camp. The smile bullets, and I didn't think that stuff was going to make me laugh. I thought I would be like, oh, but no, it hit. I thought it was, and it hit in my theater too. Everyone was roaring, laughing at that back and forth between Bloodsport and Peacemaker. So if they can even try, we don't know if this is going to be a prequel to the series, but if they can get that character back in and those two interacting again somehow for an episode, that would be fantastic, because I thought they had great chemistry, and I'm on board with John Cena, Peacemaker show, but I will not take back my statement of we should have saw this movie first and make sure that I did enjoy the character as much as I did. But DC got new people running the show, and I guess they picked a smart idea here this time. So those two scenes were my favorite. But if I had to pick, it would be the fight between Flag and Peacemaker, especially with
nice
with the view through the helmet. Oh my god.
That was actually, I really liked the camera pan from one side of the helmet to the other, moving with the fight. I thought that was really, really clever, really, really fun. I will go ahead and say my first pick was already taken. So I would say one of my favorite parts. Gosh, I don't know. I think if I can't choose showing off as dope as fuck, I think that line, that was actually the very first time that I laughed throughout the entire movie. But it's a clear like 30-minute part. It's like a clear segment of like, hey, the first half is now over. This is where most of like the meat and potatoes of the movie is going to be starting at. That was a very funny line. Really good back and forth, like Heinz said, between the two characters. For me, I know a lot. I've heard a lot of people say otherwise, but King Shark was actually pretty hilarious in this film.
I would agree totally with that.
There's some parts that didn't really hit with me, but my God, when he told everybody, "I wear disguise," and then he came back with his fin for the mustache. Oh, it was so good.
What was great is that both Ratcatcher and Peacemaker and Bloodsport like went along with it. Yeah, that's terrible disguise. If I were to see a giant shark man with a fake mustache, I'd shoot him right away.
Yeah. And then I just remembered quite possibly Abby's favorite part. I said this during SES last night, and I'll go ahead and say it here. My mother-in-law does not like me. And because of that, we have some choice words with my mother-in-law. So when Polka Dot Man said, "Oh, I just imagine all of these guys as my mother, and it's easier to kill them," my wife went rolling. She had a blast with that character. Polka Dot Man sometimes stole the show with a lot of this.
Clay, when he said, when they were questioning them about what happened to her guards, and they were all like, "Oh no!" He's like, "I pretended they were my mother, and I killed them." And I laughed.
Well,
I
like
laughed
right before that, I think it was when we heard the line from Peacemaker, basically like, "Hey, I will kill every man, woman, and child if it means keeping the peace." And Ratcatcher was like looking at Polka Dot Man and was like, "I thought you were the crazy one." And without blinking, without looking at her, just looking out into the camp, he says, "I am." like oh my god!
I was like, should I be like worried that that was my son's favorite character?
Oh well, no.
No.
No. You start worrying if he starts looking at you and he responds to "We're all gonna die." He says, "I hope so."
I've got a friend who does another podcast, Fortress of Comic News. A little shout out to them. And he, ever since the trailers came out and Polka Dot Man was in this film, announced to be in this film, he has called this film Polka Dot Man and His Amazing Friends. I'm hard pressed not to agree with him after seeing it. Like this Polka Dot Man, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but he's definitely one of my favorite characters. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Well, Joe, let's go ahead and jump into your favorite part of this movie.
Chris took mine as well with the Free the Fire scene.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. It's a great scene.
It is a great scene.
Yeah. But I would. Well, I would have to say my favorite part would be when Harley broke herself out of being captured. I'm sorry, Greg. I'm sorry.
You're good. It's a great scene.
It's a great scene. I mean, she just, especially, and my girlfriend Emily had pointed this out, the progression of Harley from the first Suicide Squad to Birds of Prey to this film, we see her going, progressing upward, and she became her own character. I mean, she was her own character after in Birds of Prey, but like, she has her own role, and that scene just solidified it. She doesn't need anybody. Like, yeah, she was breaking out even without knowing that, Flag was coming to rescue her.
That's why she got that new tattoo on the back of that shoulder blade.
Uh-huh.
You notice that?
Uh-huh. And she got a couple others removed.
New jacket as well.
Yeah,
because I thought in that scene as well, I was like, "Oh, you gonna torture her? Oh, you got to pick the craziest one because it's about to be on."
Mm-hmm.
What was the saying on the back of the jacket? I remembered.
Live fast, die clown.
Yeah, live fast, die clown. That's an awesome saying. And Greg, what was Greg.
Well, no, you're good, Joe. My favorite, obviously, and I was happy because I'd be gone almost all the way around. Nobody had said it was the Harley Quinn hallway scene. I compared it to the Daredevil hallway scene because the execution, the choreography, everything was great in that. The music, the it just looked beautiful. It was Harley Quinn being a badass, and I loved it. But since Joe took that, and I've got to come up with one on the fly, I'm gonna say a move, and I'll say the moment Harley killed the president, which sounds kind of terrible.
That's a good scene,
but it's a big moment for Harley. That scene is a big moment for Harley. So for me in the movie, that was a scene that stuck with me. That I've now watching it twice, like it's one of the ones that sticks out in my mind. Is the what she says, the emotions she's going through, and the changes she makes in that moment right there. So for me, it's that one.
Yeah, that one was kind of heartbreaking too. That kind of got me a little bit because
she was all happy to be with him. Like, I would definitely become your wife.
There was an actual emotional response to everything that she had gone through. And Travis, you said it before with Flag showing somewhat of a growth from the first Suicide Squad to this one. I will say, the three characters that connect that film, it is not essential to watch that movie, but you will not understand the reactions to those characters without seeing that film. Because in the very beginning, Harley jumps onto the plane and Boomerang is like, "Harley, where are you in prison again?" Like he knows her.
Well, he has a nickname for her. He calls her Harles.
Yeah, he says Harles.
He calls her Boomer.
Yeah.
And why are you in why are you in prison again? She's like, "Oh, well, road rage into the bank,
Yes.
This thing had a lot of fun one-liners, I will say, just kind of like random things that you could hear, maybe not even like in the main scene, but somebody said it in the background, like who ate all the empanadas, like that one.
I did. There was chicken. It was good.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be upset over that too.
The Peacemaker line immediately after that about the chicken.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's really, really soft. You kind of have to be listening for it because at that moment you start to see the camera arch. You're wondering what's going on and stuff like that.
Well, it helps out, like, because I watched it my second viewing with subtitles, so those came up, and I'm like, oh, hey, I get it. I gotta see it because I heard something. I saw it in theaters first. You hear something, but people are laughing, and you can't really make out what they're saying. So
yeah. Did everybody cover their favorite scene, Sarah? You covered yours, right? Yeah. All right. Well, no movie is perfect, so there are going to be critiques that we have, I'm sure. So let's go ahead and move on to our least favorite scenes, some things that kind of bothered you in the film. Not saying that we're going to be completely shitting all over this film, but like I said, movies are not perfect. So let's go with Travis. You said that you had one small hiccup. So what was that?
The scene Sarah mentioned. I completely think it devalued the character Amanda Waller. I don't think like the whole movie or didn't get it right, but I just think that this character, from what I've known her, has gone toe to toe with the Justice League. Especially, I got you introduced to her from the animated show, where she was a complete equal. She was getting one up on Batman, and she wasn't backing down from superpowered beings. And then Karen from HR hits her in the side of the head and knocks her out. I thought that was a little devaluing of the character. Just a little bit, just making her a little less strong when she arguably is the strongest character in the entire movie. Like, she's supposed to be the strongest character. I just thought that was just for me personally. I just didn't like it. I would have rather personally, if you had Bloodsport negotiate before all that happened, negotiate to go get Starro, say, we will bring you to disc after we take care of the problem here, the kaiju, the Starro. But yeah, I just that was one thing I didn't like. It was just a small nitpick, but I feel like it just made her character a little less strong for me. But I know that you had to do it partly to set up the end credit scene, to set up where you're going with those two, but you really didn't need to do that. You could have done a different way.
I will go ahead and interject in a small way because we technically already reviewed this in SCS. I do know that both Joe and Greg will have a response to that little nitpick, and we will talk about it later. But so that way it doesn't immediately
Fine, I won't correct them now.
Exactly.
Yes,
that way we don't jump directly into those moments. Sarah, what did you have anything that you could think of that you didn't really like about the film? Kind of a nitpick of any kind?
I think the only thing that really kind of threw me off, like I said, is the open scene, because it threw you right in there. But then I was just like, everybody died. It was like, because I think the only saving grace was the fact that there was a second team. So it's like, when you go in there, you're just like, oh my God, seriously, is this how it's going to go? But I mean, that was kind of like and I think that was the first thing. That was one of the reasons why I felt like it took a minute for the movie to kind of get its legs under it, because they got shot the hell off. So, I mean, it was just like, whoa, what is going on right here? So I think that was the first thing. I mean, there's some other things that I could probably nitpick a little, but I think that was like the first thing, because it was just like, once it was thrown out there, I was just like, what is going? Because like I said, in this particular scene, the one thing Harley said, I literally said it a minute before she said, in my living room with both my kids and my husband, I'm like, what the F? 2 seconds later, Harley's like, what the F? I said, there you go. See, I'm not the only one thinking this. So, I mean, I just think it was a lot. And I like the fact that it was a lot of action in your face, but then I was just like, oh man, this is just awful. This is just a bad start.
Well, because these characters aren't technically in our breakdown of characters to talk about, now would be a perfect time to bring up the fact that I won. In our Deadpool for the DC Alliance, me and Travis talked about who we thought was going to live and who was going to die.
Goddamn Weasel.
More specifically, I
Technically,
said,
Weasel won't dead.
exactly, and that is
I know
I will say that is
you
what
won on the
saved me.
technicality. Nice.
That is what saved me. We would have ended in a tie, and then because of that post-credit scene, I actually won. And more specifically, I actually said that the characters that did die were going to die within the first 10 minutes of the film. So
You nailed that. You did
You know,
nail
like
that.
I said, I get that, but it was just like, oh my Lord, is this the crowd they're going to bring in? And this is what it's going to start? Because you know, you had Harley, you had Flag. I'm thinking, oh my word, is it?
There's only one thing that I did get wrong in my prediction. I said that Harley would not interact with any of the characters that were going to die in the first 10 minutes, and she was a part of that team. So
Yeah.
I did get that wrong. But overall, in saying who will live and who will die, my only prediction that did not actually die was Bloodsports. So I'm actually pretty proud about that. Because I
say
even
something?
guessed
Can I say
Flag.
something?
Good.
Yeah.
I really thought Ratcatcher was going to die, and I thought that it was going to be such an emotional moment with Bloodsport because essentially that would make him like get a renewed relationship with his daughter. Like to see Ratcatcher like develop a relationship with her and then lose her. I thought that would like push him towards that, but they just basically went with just having the relationship pushed him towards reconciling with his daughter. So it still works for me. I was really expecting it. I was like, when's she going to die? When's the big emotional payoff where this comes out for Bloodsport?
Well, there was a moment where even we would have been tied again, where Bloodsport almost died, with almost saving her, and so it was like, God damn, like I could have been even more right, but unfortunately.
But can we talk about some of these, like the first string, this TDK? What was that? Even everybody was looking like, what is this?
That was a sacrifice.
It was
that
like
was a sacrifice.
So
they were
the fact
sacrificed.
that
I know, but still, I'm like, where? I wouldn't even tell anybody I could do that.
The fact that his limbs were moving in like super slow motion was like I couldn't handle it.
Smack.
I was like, what is this?
But that was supposed to be the point, in the sense of like in the sense of what could possibly the detachable kid with his arms doing like that. It's like, plus it's Nathan Fillion, so it's just going to be ridiculous anyway.
But like, even
that's one reason
I
didn't want
even
to
if the fact that like maybe he was supernatural in the fact that like, okay, his arms can detach, but like maybe he can control the speed as well. No, it was just like
and everybody's just looking like,
well, Harley and Flag realize, I think, from seeing him being like, oh crap, we're definitely because one thing.
And then Flag is like, hey, I didn't choose the team this time, you know.
A fun little bit of foreshadowing. Captain Boomerang, when Harley gets on and they're just talking, he said they all don't realize they're lambs to the slaughter, and he didn't realize that they were lamb. He was lamb,
like literally.
Like, they were literally like sacrificed. So I thought that was really nice little touch of writing that.
I really wanted to see what Javelin could do, though. I was like, okay, this dude's like walking on with this like really cool Javelin. I really wanted to see what he was going to do.
Every other character except for Savant, everybody else was.
Savant has everybody else's reaction. Like,
well, can I say with TDK, he had two scenes basically in the movie: is the arms attaching scene and the scene in the helicopter. And I thought the scene in the helicopter was better. You know, just the banter back and forth about, you know, TDK. What does that stand for? He's like, TDK.
It's me.
It's me. That's just letters. Well, everything is just letters. Like,
all
so,
names are letters.
Me better than the arms thing personally. So
that was so bizarre.
I loved it.
I'll see some crazy stuff, but that's bizarre.
F-list characters, and they were sacrifices, and I thought that it just worked so well. Mangal killed Boomer essentially.
Yeah, I know.
Mm-hmm.
And
basically almost twice.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and jump to Chris. What is one of your least favorite parts? Something that just kind of irked you throughout the film? Same
as Travis. It was how the wall went down at that point. I get and I was talking with Brent about this last night, saying I get from a general audience perspective that plays and that makes sense. Totally understand it. It fits within the context of the movie for general audience. But again, just knowing you don't take down the wall with a basically golf club behind. Yeah, basically at that point. The other thing I thought didn't have to go on as long as it did was basically seeing Harley and the president get it on. We could have totally understood that at that point. It was just one of those things like,
no,
I mean, yeah, what was it anything gratuitous? No, it just, you could have cut it and been totally understanding what happened.
Yeah.
You could have just cut to them on the floor looking at each other.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, fellas! You know what a little romance is?
Man, are you guys?
If it's going to be that long, at least flash a nipple. I mean, come on, seriously.
Wrong.
Well, he did.
We
saw his nipples.
Well,
saw the
and
president's
something
nipples.
else. Okay, I just want to say this also. I've been seeing a lot of people saying that this movie did not have nudity. It very much did.
Definitely did. Male frontal and
weasel.
Male
I
frontal.
saw Weasel's penis.
Well, no, it wasn't.
There was like two or
Really?
three like full
Not that I was
frontals
looking.
for males, and
Yes.
then there was like 2 times where at the club we saw.
Oh
some
yeah, I forgot about
strippers.
that.
So people who were like, because I think I've seen like 2 or 3 freaking TikToks that were like, oh, it's all gore, not really any nudity, so I think it's safe into that sense. I was like, no, there's a huge part in the camp scene.
Yep, the
where
guy getting up from the
Peacemaker-
toilet.
Yeah, the getting up straight from the toilet, and you see everything.
Who reviewed that? Clay?
Give me 2 weeks and I'll have all the time, just like that website on what's the movie? This is 40 or something. No, not I can't remember. Anyway,
Mr.
one of those
Flesh.
Seth Rogen. Exactly.
Well, because Joe stole your thunder,
Mr. Scam.
Greg, I will go ahead and let you talk about some of your disappointing points and acknowledge the fact of everything that's been going on with Waller also.
Okay. Well, I'm second viewing this movie. I have 4 major points that bother me. I'm not going to bring them all up right now because they're going to come up. A few we've already talked about, Waller being one thing, so I'm not going to touch on that. Really hit on that. I'm not going to hit on another one because we're going to give least favorite characters too, and that's one of my points. So I'm going to just say, one, the predictability of the movie, and I think Sarah kind of pointed to this earlier, is that there's a lot of things that I saw coming a mile away, which bothered me. And 2, I didn't like the copy and paste of Bloodsport and Deadshot. It just didn't go well with me. They could have. I get that Will Smith was supposed to be the guy in this movie, but they still could have tweaked that story enough to where it wasn't almost the exact same story. So those things
and
kind of
I do
me.
believe that Will Smith was supposed to be in this film, but just scheduling and contracts got in the way, and so they had to. We said this kind of on SCS last night that they could have possibly just like, hey, let's rewrite a completely new character, but then that would have taken time. So they wanted to say, hey, how can we make this, seamless? And hey, let's just put in this character of Bloodsport. So,
yeah.
So Joe, what are some of your
I'm
dislikes
in
about this
agreement with the Waller takedown there. Like, really, not even the takedown. It's more of her just going, batshit crazy, yelling. That one was more so because I'm right there with you, Travis. My introduction to her in the comics, it was during the Bloodlines annual 93 annual thing where they needed her expertise to try and take down these aliens. And she is just on vacation, and Superman and I think Green Lantern come to, I think it was Guy Gardner Green Lantern, so I can assume why she was upset, but come to her and is trying to threaten her. She's like, piss off. Let's go do this. Come on. Like, she's just standing up to these superheroes. She has no problem doing whatever. And then this one, she just can't handle these guys who are defying her orders. And I know we talked about it last night in SCS. In the first movie, she just killed everybody in that room, and she doesn't take care of these guys. Like, well, That's one of my
more
major
so.
things.
That's more so what I thought you or Greg were going to bring up. One of the
Yeah.
big things is that when Waller gets taken down here, and then near the end, when she's making the negotiations with Bloodsport, she then looks at her team with the ice pack on her head, and then just gives them the stink eye.
Yeah.
I mean, I know
Comparatively,
I
and
think
like
I
Travis
said.
said, oh, go ahead, Joe.
Well, I think I said that last night that they basically told her that or gave those two people the assignment that they're watching over Peacemaker, and we know they're going to be in the new show. Maybe that's her way of dealing with them. But even then, that's
But that is a
compared
lesser,
compared to the first
compared
movie.
to the
Yes.
first movie of her
Yeah.
killing everybody in that building.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it again, but if you really go back and look at it and you study the movie, every person Waller talked to or spoke to in this movie defied her, and she didn't kill any of them except for one, and that's not Amanda Waller to me. Like it just, I feel like they downplayed that character big time. I'm in agreement with y'all on that.
So I will go ahead and say just one or two things. The inclusion of the freedom fighters, as much as a funny scene as Bloodsport and Peacemaker measuring dicks, the freedom fighters had zero to do with the story. They threw in the line of like, oh, well, technically this family, like they throw in the line that she is connected to that family that was mass murdered by the president. But other than that, there is nothing that the freedom fighters added to the film. You can literally take them out and it's the exact same movie.
Well, it does showcase the abilities of at least that group, because they.
I know, but you could showcase those abilities anywhere in the movie.
Not quite that stealth type. Like, that was really impressive how they tore through that camp and never made a sound. Like, they didn't.
No, but you could have just made it an enemy camp, right?
Yeah, that's
another, it's an enemy camp.
Then you're where I guess they'll have to capture Joel Kinnaman, but they already captured Harley Quinn. So will the two of them be together? So I kind of think it works out pretty well with them. Like I said, it goes more to Flag's the maturity too as a character.
In the connection to the freedom fighters, she's specifically trying to go after one general because she specifically names the one general. That one general leaves with the army. He doesn't stay in the building like she thought he was going to. And he actually dies on the battlefield right in front of Bloodsport and Ratcatcher at the very end. So she just unloads her gun on these political officials, and she doesn't even know if that general that she's been wanting to kill is even dead.
But it's very general. It wasn't just that general she was after. She was after the whole presidential party.
I thought she specifically named.
No, this is kind of a cut the head off the snake thing, though, right?
Because I could have swore she named Luna, the guy that Harley killed. That's who she was going after. But then same situation. They didn't know.
Common enemy.
Correct. They didn't know that Harley killed him. They didn't know that Starro took care of the other general. Like, they went in there taking back the country, taking back the island from this political military power.
Yeah.
So
there is that. The other thing that I was a little disappointed on in this film was that there was a lot of parts in this film, and I know I said this technically in the Black Widow review. I'm going to go ahead and say it again here. A lot of this film was in the trailers. Of course, there's just some things that comedically wise they wanted to try to keep here, but in order to sell the movie, a lot of those good responses from trailers they kept into the movie. So I felt like a lot of this film was already seen as far as like the punchlines go. So I didn't laugh at most of those because I've already seen them before and I already knew that they were coming. The stuff that, a lot of the Polka Dot Man stuff, like, unfortunately, his one line before he dies was we immediately knew, like, oh, he's going to die at that line. And then boom, he died. So this kind of goes hand in hand with Greg's predictability of the film, but more so it's just the fact that, like, the comedic beats to this movie I had already seen, and unfortunately that caused me not to enjoy those comedic moments as much as they probably wanted me to, you know? So that
All in the game in the
is...
chat. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Garrett.
I would say all in the game in the chat room says stop watching trailers. No, don't stop watching trailers. Stop digging in after trailers, but you got to watch the trailers.
Well,
Trailers
I
get you
will
hyped.
admit, I will go ahead and admit, I was not going to watch a trailer, but then the entire world was like, hey, we're going to take literally 3 seconds of a trailer and blow it up. And so we had to talk about it on DC Alliance.
Well, I think the other problem was you had the red band, and then almost like a day or two later, you came up with a whole, like not a whole different trailer, but a different toned trailer than the red band.
But the trailer.
Okay, there we go. But you basically had 2 full trailers back to back with each other. That kind of usually doesn't happen like that.
And there's 3 or 4 trailers. So if they like play for comedies, now my suggestion is just watch the first trailer, and that'll be maybe because they have 3, 4, 5 trailers, and then you see clips on, like I've seen them on TikToks and on YouTube ads. You'll see clips for parts that you didn't even see in the first trailer. So you'll end up seeing 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes of the movie if you watch all the trailers. So it's kind of a hand in hand with comedies. I know I can understand your pain because some of those punchline, like really funny moments, like you miss out on them. You miss out on the big theater experience of laughing at it because you already know what's coming or you've heard it before.
Yeah.
The only response I can have for that is I get what you're saying, but like I feel like I watched the trailers for this movie and the trailers still didn't spoil it for me because all I did was watch the trailers. Like I made it a point not to analyze the trailers, not to rewatch them, not to look up stuff that's going on in the movie, not to check out news. I saw the trailers and I said, okay, when this movie comes out, I'm going to check it out. And I'm going to enjoy it. And the trailers didn't spoil it for me because of that. And I think most general audiences like that. They see the trailer and like, okay, when that comes out, I'm going to see it.
Well, I think, like I said, it wasn't necessarily that the trailer spoiled the movie for me. The only one trailer that spoiled something for me that I do feel like should have been a reveal in the movie was Starro. Because one thing that I did say in my Batman News Weekly review, as well as the SCS review, is the first hour is a long hour. The first start, just like Sarah said, that did have a little bit of a slow start. The first hour for me was very long. Around that hour mark is around the time where they go into the bar. That is when a lot of stuff, as far as like not trailer stuff, started to happen. And I was completely okay with that. But I was getting a little bored with that first hour. So for me personally, it was just like, okay, let's move on. But the Starro thing with that first hour, because it was moving so slow, I was like, okay, let's get to Starro already. I was wanting it to happen. I was wanting the pace of the movie to just hurry up at that moment, which once that happens, you know, that's when you start to look at your phone. If you're at home watching HBO Max, not in theaters, people, or looking at your watch, things like that. So unfortunately, those things did happen to me while I was watching the movie for the first time. But that is it for our favorite scenes section. Let's go on and move on to the characters. But before that, yes, we will jump into an ad again. We don't choose the ads. So we will be back in just 1 second. Ready? 3, 2, 1. And we are back. So let's go ahead and Sarah, we know that Harley Quinn is possibly your favorite in here, but top 3 favorite characters in this movie. What do you think?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. Top 3. I mean, obviously Harley, because I mean, how is she not? Because she was like the radiating, just the one that kind of, for me, kind of held everything together, because she's what you expected. You expected her to be who she was. I felt like she was a lot stronger in this movie. Just like I was telling my kids, they're like, what? I'm like, did you see Birds of Prey? Did you see? Because my daughter, she was like, where's Joker? I'm like, he long gone. He gone. She done told him kick rocks. He gone. But I think Polka Dot Man. I think he kind of came on and got his legs under him as well, because when you kind of heard his story and then when you actually saw, they're like, oh, hey, that's their polka dots, and those damn polka dots, man, they were a little they could get the job done. But
yeah, I really like the addition to his character design as far as the polka dots. His original power is that the polka dots on his costume can turn into any device that he needs. That's what happens in the comics. I do like this change that it is some sort of interdimensional virus. That's how he explained it in the movie.
yeah,
So
I think
do
film
like
wise, I
that.
think that would probably work a little bit better than trying to it's almost like there's this book that my kids read growing up talking about this bear that could take his polka dots
Yeah,
and like create it.
I remember that book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know you probably did, you probably read it not too long ago, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's what it kind of reminded me of when I heard Polka Dot Man, because I was like, okay, is he gonna like turn them into okay, whatever. But I mean, his character I felt like evolved very nicely to where he wasn't just some background character, like an expendable type one, but he would actually have like a little bit of a story, and he kind of progressed a bit. And I think also, which I was really surprised I thought this, but I think Ratcatcher too. She had this first I was like, you talk to rats? What? Then when Peacemaker was like millennial, I was like, yeah, I get that. So she might be, I was thinking she was gonna be expendable. But she turned out to be kind of a glue to this little group. I mean, she, as far as, her interaction with King Shark and especially interaction with Bloodsport, I mean, it was really interesting. And come to find out, I mean, she had a really big part to play in, taking care of Starro. So, that was really surprising. So I think in retrospect, she's one of those characters I would not have thought that, but I was really impressed with that. I was really impressed with that kind of character building. But yeah, so that's kind of like the ones that, like, off the top of my head, I can really think about, because the others were kind of, to me, I expected them to be the way they were, but these characters I think were kind of like a little more unexpected, at least, in my opinion.
Very nice. Chris, what about you? Top 3 favorite characters?
Trying to I'll start off with kind of Sarah list of Ratcatcher 2, just because I enjoyed kind of how she tried to form some sort of connection with almost everyone on the team. Even her, reaction to, when, King Shark tries to eat her at that point, said, no, he wouldn't do that. And then Sebastian goes, he's like, you bastard.
Yeah. Her rat like literally tells her everything that just happened, and she's like, what? Like, that was funny.
And I mean, it was nice to also hear, I mean, she had the biggest part of the backstory going on in the whole group that we really, and I think that was the point of that kind of character. Polka Dot Man, he was more of the kind of humor that I would find interesting, is just kind of the lunacy of the other one that we found a little bit of background, and just the moments where his like the mom being visualized on the dance floor, grinding with his,
he does
those pants. Okay, fellas, can you just let's just talk about those pants for a second. Oh my God. Okay.
So weird.
Let's not think about those pants anymore.
and though he's not my favorite character, but the most times I thought the growth with the character, in the sense of like I got more out of them, was probably Peacemaker. Even though I know we said favorite characters, I said I enjoyed kind of seeing it. I think more in rewatches, I got what I expected out of Peacemaker, but it kept on building on that. Do I understand yet why we're getting a show for Peacemaker? No, I don't. I don't get it necessarily yet, and I hope that when the show does come out, I'll understand it a lot more. But also, I understand reading the comics like I do. Yeah, they're moving him to the forefront for that reason. but I enjoyed just the playoff that he had against others. My honorable, so I'd be the character I love to hate. At that point, I have to say my honorable mention is Weasel.
You like him licking glass, didn't you? It's when he licked the glass.
No, every time the bulging eyes came out, I couldn't stop laughing. The bulging eyes just got me every single time. And the squeaks and whatever he was doing at that point, it was just the ridiculousness of the character in the sense of, wait a minute, you sat me next to what kind of dog is, what do you mean? Where do you get a dog with thumbs?
An Afghan hound.
I'm not familiar with all the breeds.
It was just as soon as I saw him do in the trailer walking out up against the American flag, I was like, just take me on this ride. I'll take whatever I can get him at this point, just because of the ridiculousness. So those are my choices.
Very, very nice. Now it seems like there's a little bit of a trend going on here. So let's see if we can shake it up. Travis, what about you? Top 3 favorite characters.
Well, I'm going to say one that wasn't named, which is Flag, is number 1 for me. Like I said earlier, he was the soldier. He was with Waller in the first movie and just was X's and O's, bam, bam, bam. Would do anything she said, completely scared of her. And then he has this relationship with June Moon and Enchantress that all of the events happen. And I can totally see him going from that kind of guy to this kind of guy, because he didn't want to have anything to do with the villains, didn't want to talk to them, didn't think they were worth anything. Eventually, he found common ground with them, but he comes straight out of the gate here. If this was a reinterpretation, he's awful friendly with some, like Savant right away, whereas in the first film, he was dismissive of them. And I just liked seeing his growth, his relationship with Harley. That was fantastic. But his contrast between him and Peacemaker were great. Peacemaker was just total U.S. government, do anything, say anything. Like he said, I'd kill any man, woman, or child to keep peace. So he's like the ultimate soldier for Waller, whereas Flag used to be. But now Flag is such a great, and I thought the stab through the heart was good, but Flag's stab through Peacemaker's heart of Peacemaker, what a joke, was even better. So I was like, one stab. I don't know if Peacemaker's ever going to recover from that stab, because he looked up, he had a like affinity for Flag too, you could tell, especially like a soldier, and now he had to blindly follow Watler's orders and kill him, and we ultimately find out that like he gets sent on another mission. So I'm really curious about this show. I am like Crystal, like I don't know if you're picking the characters. I think people will probably say Ratcatcher 2 might be a show they might want to see, or some of the other characters that survived, just because, but I'm in for that. My number 2 character is Ratcatcher 2. I thought that she was great. She had a lot of heart and provided a lot of moments, like you said, with different characters. I'm not talking about King Shark almost eating her, but that emotional heart-to-heart talk she had with him right after. Like I was in on that. I was like, oh my God, like, and looking at King Shark, the CGI was done so well. I'm going to have to put him in as my number 3. I was looking at my list of 3 characters there, and I actually knocking off the 3rd character for King Shark, just thinking about him, because he hit so well. Everything Sly Stallone said had me laughing. I especially if you watch Harley Quinn, the animated show, like it's just
that King Shark's amazing.
Yes, and I just got so many vibes of that from this one. And I want to see more. I want to see him in Aquaman. I want to see, maybe show me Aquaman taking him down, and that's how Waller gets her hands on him at the start of the movie, because I want to see more for that character. I love it. And honorable mention, the one that they knocked out was the Peacemaker Bloodsport combo. I just thought they were great. They bounced off each other the entire time, and I didn't really want to pick between them. My
honorable
theater
mention, that's 2 people.
My theater must have been
It's an
full
extra pick and 2 people.
So instead of just having
their
3, he had 5.
Their relationship together. But yeah, my theater must be full of 12-year-old people wearing John Cena shirts, because everything he said was roars, laughter, roars, laughter, roars, laughter. There was a couple next to me. The wife would not stop saying, I did not realize how funny John Cena was.
Blockers? Anyone? Blockers?
I still need to watch
that.
that.
I say. That's what I say, Chris.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I was rather impressed, I got to say, with that relationship, just the back and forth, and the small bullet nod at the end that Bloodsport uses to take down Peacemaker.
Yep.
Just little cherry on top.
The only scene I think I liked of Peacemaker is when he actually said, "How about a drink for the rat?"
Yeah, that was fun.
I was like, okay, maybe there's hope. There's hope.
And then poor King Shirk at that exact same
Oh,
scene.
yeah,
he's
that was sad.
crying. I
Yeah.
didn't realize so the very first time I saw the movie, I saw him kind of bobbing up and down. I thought he was bobbing to the music. The second time I do realize him bobbing up and down is actually him hyperventilating. He's crying and then he wipes away a tear because he can't hang out with his friends. So a little heartbreaking there. So Greg, what about you? Top 3 favorite characters of this film?
I'm more importantly now. Can't wait to talk about my bottom 3, but the top 3, the top after listening to y'all's top 3, I can't wait to talk about my bottom 3. My top 3, it's simple, man. It's the top 3 actors in the movie. It's the 3 leads in the movie. I think Harley Quinn, Peacemaker, and Bloodsport were the best characters in this movie, as they should be. They're the leads in this movie. I would trade out Peacemaker for Rick Flag if Flag had more lines or more scenes, but he doesn't. I think he should have been a bigger part of this movie. I would have preferred Flag. If you're going to kill Peacemaker, let Flag be the guy who does it and let him live. Like I would have preferred that, where Flag's the guy who kills him and he lives and keeps going, but it didn't happen like that. We're about to have a Flash movie that's could change a lot anyway. So, maybe we'll see him again, but I do miss Flag, but that's the only reason I have him in my top 3 is because of the little bit of screen time, the small part in the story,
Yeah.
So for me, it's just the lead 3, the best, like I said, the best 3 actors. And for me, the best 3 characters in the movie.
Very nice. Joe, what about you?
All right. So might be controversial here, but number 1, Milton. Number 2, Lloyd Kaufman. Number 3, Calendar Man.
Oh,
Also,
throw my headphones off. I thought.
Just want to say this.
I'm kidding. By
Did
the way.
anybody notice?
My God, Calendar Man.
Did anybody notice in the last DC Alliance the guy in the chat that ruined the joke for Milton for us?
Yeah, I remember that. I was in the chat that night, and I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yep.
There's no way he would have known who
No.
Milton was
Without seeing
unless he
it.
saw the movie.
Yep.
No.
So
Being a jerk.
unfortunately, we did have a troll in the chat last episode. Didn't dawn on me until the exact
movie.
moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody said the name Milton, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, that's Milton." So unfortunately, that was ruined for us. But Joe, go ahead and tell us your real list.
Yeah, my real list. Love Bloodsport. Love Idris Elba. I just love him as an actor and I've seen him in. I'm not saying every single thing he's been in, but I thought he did a tremendous job as Bloodsport in this movie. So I said it earlier, love Polka Dot Man. That character for as short of a time as we had him on screen. He stole the show in my eyes. And similar to everybody else, Ratcatcher. Now, I don't think, Travis, you said you'd rather see a show with her in it. I don't think she could support a show by herself, but it'd be interesting. Like I would love to see this character, like more of this character in the future. Like everybody that we had, I want to see more of them going forward. So, will we get them somewhere? I don't know. I know we talked about last night about possibilities of them coming back, but I can't see them anytime soon.
In that show is one thing I'm curious about, because if it isn't a prequel, if it continues on from the exact point we leave Peacemaker, then you could very well get Waller sending in another person to help him with a part of a mission. So you could get somebody come in, because they're all back at. Well, actually, no, they're all free, so you wouldn't get
exactly.
them.
They're nothing.
They all freed, and that was one of the things that I brought up in SCS.
Yeah, Clay has
characters. If these characters end up for some reason, because one thing that happens in comics and it happens in movies, if a audience is attracted to a character in their performance and them being the breakout star or anything else, like I do feel like Ratcatcher. The actress for Ratcatcher will be. I do feel that she is enough of the heart of this film to cause people to really notice her. I do think we will see her as an actress more often than not now.
Yeah.
So I will not be surprised to see that, but more so if the next movie has Idris Elba's Bloodsport, I need to see them capture him. I do not want him to just be in the Suicide Squad and then be like throw an offhand comment of like, hey, we know how you remember how we caught you again and blah blah blah. Like this was a pretty big encounter with Waller and him butting heads of like, hey, I'm going to send this. Like, if he's captured, then that video is out there and she doesn't care. And if she doesn't care, then why did she make the negotiation to begin with? You know? So I will say that for that little interaction with those characters. As far as my top 3 characters, I will also say Ratcatcher 2. She was the heart of the film. She did bring a lot to the table. You know, Travis, in some like parts of the film, I thought maybe she might die, but after a while, I was just like, no, she's in the clear for sure. Bloodsport, going off of that relationship of Ratcatcher 2 was really, really nice. I do like the nod to the very beginning of the film where Idris Elba basically was like, are you laughing at me? Because this guy does exactly what I do. And Cena was like, well, I do it better. And he's like, I hit the center more in the target. And he's like, how? Smaller bullets. Well, I'm pretty sure because Idris or freaking Bloodsport heard this, he was like, you know what? I need to make smaller bullets. And that is how we got the interaction of that little draw between the two.
Also, I just want to point out, like, the way Bloodsport's weapons worked was freaking amazing. And I know that's his character.
Cool.
His character is he can make weapons, whatever.
He is a walking, talking 3D printer.
Yeah, that was awesome. Like, oh, I need a gun. Off his chest, 2 guns. Oh, attachment. Here we go. Off his shoulder.
No, he had 6 attachments to one weapon, and then he freaking 3D printed a sword right when he needed
that was amazing. Like, his weapons were awesome, and I was here for it.
Yeah, they were great. So those 2, and then my third. A third is actually pretty hard with everybody that we saw. There's a lot of good points for John Cena. There's a lot of good points, of course, for Harley and her growth in the character.
Harley's my honorable mention.
There's a lot of stuff with, of course, King Shark being the other half of the heart of the film. But just because there was such good comedic moments with him, I would have to say Polka Dot Man. He is just way too hilarious. The whole thing with his mom, the backstory of his mom being a scientist in Star Labs doing experiments on his siblings and himself. For a split second, I thought maybe we have heroes in the DCEU that are actually siblings of Polka Dot Man.
And we still could. We just don't know.
Yeah,
That
because
would be kind of crazy.
I mean, he said some were gone, but some he never really answered a question about the rest of them.
Yeah, it would be kind of crazy if they wanted to just throw that in there. Now, also talking into Travis's point of when you said the show for Peacemaker, we know that there is going to be a second season. We don't necessarily know whether it's a prequel quite yet, but there was news today that dropped that Peacemaker could lead up into other projects of the DCEU other than just Suicide Squad. So, meaning, I don't think this is just like a standalone Peacemaker show. They could bring a lot more characters in it. My prediction for this is that he's actually recruiting for the next Suicide Squad movie. So we probably will have other characters in the show end up being in the Suicide Squad sequel, because I believe it was a question for Snell. We'll go ahead and throw that in here. He did send us a question. Actually, he is being the best man at Taylor's wedding right now. So congratulations, Taylor. Snell, be the best man that you can be. Just keep your shirt on, please.
A question: is it hard for you to say Snell and best man in the same sentence? I know your rivalry.
Hashtag thank him.
Ugh. Well, I would here. Let me take a sip real quick. Oh wait, hold on. Let me take another sip.
I don't ever get Clay
Oh, hold
in
on.
trouble.
Let me take another sip.
I don't ever get Clay in trouble by teaming.
Wait, hold
him
on,
up
one
for
more
things like
sip.
this.
Wait. Hold on. I need to take
Okay,
another
okay,
sip.
okay.
Where's my Gatorade? Anyway, Snell did
Oh boy,
say
here we go.
he did have a question for us with the news that Hamada said that James Gunn has a lot more on his plate than just the Suicide Squad. Or he has more on his plate. He didn't necessarily say that it was Suicide Squad or not. I will go ahead and say that a sequel most likely in the works already because of my prediction with the Peacemaker show. But unfortunately, I do think Hamada will try to whisper into Gunn's ear for making more of a fluidity type of timeline for the DCEU moving forward. I just think that will be easier for Hamada. I'm not putting a tinfoil hat or anything. I'm just talking logistics.
Or a toilet seat.
Gunn has experience with what he has learned with Marvel, and it is something that WB wants to do. So why not pay the man to do exactly that? So that's my predictions for what we could see for James Gunn moving forward with the DCEU.
I want to kind of respond to what your prediction was for Peacemaker recruiting for the next Suicide Squad film. I kind of want to take that in a different direction. What about Waller getting fed up with running Task Force X in this point, and then leading to where we did see it was my introduction to Peacemaker was Checkmate.
Oh yeah.
You know, it basically the bigger organization of, you know, control for her, because that's what all this movie is about, is control.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Yeah, I could see that happening as well. Would be very, very interesting. But is there anything else? I talked about, like I said, favorite characters here in the breakdown. I'm pretty sure Greg said he kind of wanted to talk about his least favorite characters.
Yeah, buddy.
Now I'm gonna go ahead and say something that will definitely have me canceled or thrown into the trash, and it is my hottest take of this film. I did say it last night on SCS. Sarah, I'm gonna go ahead and apologize now.
You're young. You're young, and you don't know a lot of things, so that's perfectly fine.
I'm muting my mic so I don't yell at him.
I will go ahead and say this. Although her character progression is very important moving forward into the DCEU, if you take Harley Quinn out of this film, it's the exact same movie.
I've seen that sentiment a couple times. Do not agree with it. I thought honestly you were going to say you hated Florence Pugh. Just for shits and giggles.
That's what I said last night.
I don't hate her as a human being.
Just
I
as the
think her
actress.
performance for Black Widow was bad. That's what I think. Everybody can say whatever, but in this instance for this movie, I just wanted to go ahead and throw it out there because I knew either Greg or Joe would be like egging me on to say it.
I mean, I'm not egging you on to do nothing.
It was probably a good thing I wasn't on SCS last night.
I'm not a financial advisor. You make your own decisions, sir.
So, well, that's like I said, I enjoyed that scene a lot when she is talking to the president, and you see the emotion in her eyes. You kind of see her stare off into space, realizing how much of a bad life she had beforehand, and I think that's very important for that character. But if you take her out of the movie, it is literally the same movie.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you have the same feel if she was basically in with the other crowd, say, for instance, in the freedom fighter camp? Would you still have the same take? Do you feel like that she kind of had her own storyline throughout this film?
I think that she did. And that's what I mean. For me personally, I would much rather have a Margot Robbie Harley Quinn movie. Mm-hmm. And I know everybody's going to say, well, that's Birds of Prey, but they weren't confident enough to say Birds of Prey. They were like, oh, and the Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Oh, by the way, we're going to change it again. This is actually Harley Quinn in the Birds of Prey.
And then they changed it back. So
yeah, and they were very wish-washy on what they were wanting that movie to be. I think more so if you give Margot Robbie her own movie as Harley Quinn and grow her character that way, you're going to learn and love that character more than these moments of her in Suicide Squad, because she is the random freaking comedic person. You know, when she's spitting off all those things on the rooftop, you know, if you have personalized license plates, we will kill you. That is an homage to the Suicide Squad movie with Joker having ha 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 on his Lamborghini. You know, her whole thing with coughing, you know, that apparently Gunn had that in before COVID, so that's just a coincidence. And then when she was like, I am walking back and forth, you know, those moments are funny. And I do think that that is Harley Quinn in her character. But if we can give Harley Quinn the spotlight, I would enjoy that a lot more than her being in the Suicide Squad.
Makes sense.
I would agree with that. But yeah, I'd love to see a Harley Quinn movie. I think that'd be fantastic because I love her character.
Oh yeah, I would too.
But I see what you're saying.
Poison Ivy.
I see what you're saying. Oh,
well, and that,
yes.
so bringing up the idea of Poison Ivy, I said this on SES. The whole thing with Bloodsport being a stand-in for basically Deadshot. Why did Bloodsport need to have the emotional tie to, you know, have inspiration? Why couldn't it have been Harley? You know, she had Cassie at the end of Birds of Prey, and they were like best buds at the end of that movie, driving off into the sunset together. Like, why couldn't they use that as leverage on her? Or if you were just to like tease the character and just say, oh, by the way, Harley, we will kill Pamela. Not even showing the character, but teasing the fact that Harley is in a relationship with Poison Ivy. Like, that would even be something that's worth like, holy crap, you know? So those were some of the moments that I had watching this movie and like really digging into the Harley Quinn character, because I knew there was people saying, oh, you know, this is both tied to her moments in Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey, and I didn't necessarily see it except for in that speech where she got all emotional. So she needed more of the spotlight, and I don't think she can have it with so many other characters, especially when majority of them are men. So
yes, that is kind of difficult when you have one female that is around with a bunch of fellas and, you know, trying to make her point. So I get that.
Yeah.
Are we going into characters that we dislike? Because if so, can I please go first? Because
Greg, go ahead.
All right. So at the Bat Daddy 52, go ahead and get your tweet started. You're good. Like I said in the chat room, if you didn't hate me before the show started, you're going to hate me now. There's 4 characters stand out for different reasons that I just hate in this movie. TDK, Blackheart, who was what's his name? Nathan called him Butthole Eyes character, the guy who sold him out. Ratcatcher and King fucking Shark. Like, and I'll start from the bottom of the list there. TDK and Blackheart I don't like because they're 2 actors that I think could have played bigger roles in this universe rather than what it really boils down to, a 1.5-minute cameo and then being killed, which bothers me because I think Nathan Fillion needs to get a role in this damn universe. You know?
Well, he did.
Well, yeah.
Now he's dead.
He needs to get a real role in this universe. What I mean. Ratcatcher. Okay, I get what everybody's saying, but I don't know. I can't get behind a lazy ass teenager that was given a power by her father that is easily defeated by knocking a magic wand out of her hand. You know, to me, that's just not some. I wouldn't pick her for my team. I mean, just me personally. And King Shark is so fucking dumb. I'm sorry, y'all. Every joke was so stupid. He tried to bring Groot into the DCEU. Excuse me, Groot and Drax. A combination of those 2 in the DCEU. And it's just so stupid. I didn't laugh at anything King Shark did. The coolest moment with King Shark was when he ripped the guy in half. But just the character, man, the whole time he was on the screen, I was like, God, I can't stand this guy. I hate they took this awesome character and made him this dumbass. It's what they did to Thor at Ragnarok. You know, like why have this amazing ability with CGI and everything you can do to have this awesome King Shark and make him this moron who read book well, you know, King Shark smart or whatever the hell his name was, you know, like why?
Nanawe.
Like why? Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Question,
I didn't like it, and for
question.
me, every time I saw it in the movie, it pulled me out of it. And I was like, oh, this is fucking stupid.
Question:
So-
when have we ever seen King Shark like recites Shakespeare or
I don't
this
say- I don't
literal,
know.
like,
Harley Quinn.
Okay.
Harley Quinn.
I was saying, I don't
Harley
say I
Quinn,
want him
he's a
reciting
genius.
Shakespeare, but I don't want him to be. I don't want him Joe Biden out there. I want him to be able to complete a thought in a sentence. You know,
Okay.
like so, like let's at least progress that a little bit. I don't know. It just for me, it just didn't work. You know, and I get everybody loves King Shark. He's the comedic relief, and that's why I said everybody's gonna hate me for this take. But I just hated the character, man. Couldn't stand it at all. Like if that character, they wasted that character, in my opinion.
I could not disagree any more or
I
any
feel you.
harder.
I feel you. Everybody's
like-
entitled to that. Yeah.
But you're saying he's the Groot of the DC. That's not
The
true
Groot
at
and
all.
Drax.
Groot Drax.
Groot and
Like,
Drax.
you're just because you're taking a previous comic book movie he did and trying to put characters in similar. King Shark, I've seen him be this way. I've seen him not say anything. In the Flash,
I'd have been
TV
fine if he
show,
didn't talk.
He hasn't said anything.
I'd have been
or
fine
he's
if he
made
didn't talk.
jokes, or he's been a joke. It's
I'd have been fine with that if he was a badass.
This was the take. He's not always designed.
This was a combination of many reiterations that we've seen
I get
King
that,
Shark be, and I think more importantly, you knew exactly what this character was going to be the moment you saw his design. So you unfortunately should not have brought anything into like more thinking as far as what we got, unfortunately. Because don't get me wrong, there is a King Shark in the most recent Suicide Squad comic with Tom Taylor that was an absolute badass, but then spoilers, he died. I'm not going to tell you how, but it's the Suicide Squad, so it could be a number of things.
Hey, Flag died. Flag died too in Suicide Squad.
And hey, don't get me wrong either. Like I'm not saying I understand that I'm in the minority on this opinion. I get that, and I'm not mad at somebody else for having their opinion. Like I get that most people loved it, and that's awesome. I'm super glad y'all loved it. For me, King Shark just didn't work.
Not saying that, but jokes.
Way,
I was just disagreeing with the Groot Drax
I get that,
hybrid and comparing it to Guardians. I think it's two completely separate. The joke's not hitting for you, and just the voice that's fine to not like. I just don't think that the comparison's valid of those two characters with King Shark. That's just
that makes sense.
But the other stuff, the jokes with Gunn, you know that from his other films, his jokes are hit or miss for you if you enjoy them or not. And if I recall, I don't think you had a fantastic opinion of the second Guardians film.
Neither did I. So.
Not quite. Yeah, the first one I loved. I loved the first one. Maybe that was just too much gun. That was all the gun I needed. You know, but that might have been what it was. That might have been all the gun I needed after everything.
But
after that
I don't think comparing King Shark to Joe Biden is anywhere near.
Well,
like he's a shark.
It was a joke. It was a joke.
No, but I'm just saying, like he's a shark trying to learn like language and all that stuff. I just thought
which
it was
is why it's
hilarious.
great. Well, I'm not.
And my entire theater, you must have watched this on HBO Max, right?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, my entire theater was in roars.
Oh, I can imagine so. Yeah.
King Shark. Especially the whole fake mustache. Every single thing that was said was hitting on all cylinders. So I might have got sucked up in the theater experience too, but it hit for me, and I found myself laughing. I was like, oh, I'm laughing with everyone here. And that and John Cena, King Shark and John Cena were the ones that got the most pop in my theater anyway.
All right. So because I don't think Chris, Sarah, Joe, do any of y'all want to talk about least favorite characters or anything like that?
I mean, I said I was just happy because of the actor getting killed, Blackguard, at that point.
Well, I will go ahead and say this also. It's not a character that I disliked, but it was one character that most people weren't expecting to die. I will say I called it and I didn't want it. R.I.P. Boomerang.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Boomerang. I saw him in the trailer with all the other people that I immediately guessed were gonna die in the first 10 minutes. I was like, he's got to die. He's gonna be thrown away. And I will say, recently I can't go an episode without mentioning them. For all of you Snyder fans that have the tinfoil hats, this isn't James Gunn deciding, hey, I'm going to kill off everybody who's attached to the air cut. That is not a thing as far as him wanting to throw everything Ayer had. If you were paying attention in the credits, he actually had a thank you for Ayer. You've seen him go back and forth with Ayer on Twitter. The only hiccup that there was the moment of like, oh yeah, they're letting me do whatever, and then Ayer had to say something. He's like, oh, but I mean, you paved the way. That was a little bit of a funny moment on Twitter, but other than that,
he had a really good Clay. He had a really good video answer about that. He had a really good video answer about that. Yeah, you could tell like he said like there's a new regime here, and that's partly because of what happened.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Well, here's the other thing too. Look in the opening credits. Zack Snyder, Deborah Snyder, producers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
100%.
Just that carries a lot of weight.
Yes, it does. But with that, guys, we're almost there at the end. Because this is you know what? Let's go ahead and do our last ad break here, and then we will go on to our ratings. So we will be back in 3, 2, 1. And we are back. So first, we are going to go ahead and rate it from 1 to 10, and then we will share our letterbox because that was one big thing that we decided that we were going to do. So let's go with Sarah. On a scale of 1 to 10, this movie, what do you think? What would you rate this? The Suicide Squad by James Gunn.
I think I'd give it a 6. Because, I mean, I think this might be one I could watch again, but I don't think I would necessarily want to like watch it tomorrow since I watched it today. It's one I think I'm going to let it kind of marinate just a little bit because there were a lot of characters in there where like, I just don't care. I just don't care. I'm like, and Peacemaker's one of them. I'm like, I don't care because, I get the gist of the character. I mean, granted, I don't have the comic book background on him. So I'm just kind of just generally going on this, but, I don't know. It's just some of the characters I was just like, they're awesome, and I think as a whole for this movie, but I just don't think that's one that I would really follow more so than any others. So I'd probably get a solid 6, yeah.
All right. Chris, what about you? What do you think?
I'm giving this a 7.5.
Okay.
So
solid.
I enjoyed it. It was it was a different thing that I could see bringing into the DC. It wasn't like a complete departure, but it was somewhat something I have not fully seen really lean hard into with a James Gunn kind of movie at that point being in the DCEU. And I enjoyed it. I wasn't planning on seeing it 3 times in 24 hours, but thank you, HBO Max, for dropping it. Again, I had already booked my tickets weeks ago to see this in theaters. So I already had my plan, but I'm also not going to turn down an opportunity to see it at home before. So, it had, I talked with Brent about this offline, that it had diminishing returns seeing it that many times in a row versus probably if I saw it twice, it would have been just enough within 24 hours. But it's definitely one after my wife and I see it tomorrow with HBO Max, I'll probably going to give it a break for a bit, but definitely one I will be going back to and happily watching again.
Very, very nice. Travis, what about you?
I'm used to these 1 to 10 rankings. Joe, I won't be having any debates with myself. Should we rank this or not?
Good.
Little plug
You know what?
Little plug for Walk Through the Multiverse.
First episode, I had to figure out what I was going to do. Okay.
It was
Still
my
working
favorite
on
part of Joe's episode where he finished the Snake Eyes review and he sat there for a second and he was like, I'm not going
Am
to
I
give a
gonna-
rating. Wait,
Am I going to rate
actually,
this? Maybe not. Maybe I will. Hey, you know what?
It's-
Let's go
it's
ahead and
my
do it. It's
show.
my show.
You know what?
My
The
show.
funny thing is, I even had to heavily edit a lot of the episode because I forgot about a lot of things. Which is why when I do my 2 commercial breaks, the first one says, "Oh, I haven't had any problems in a while," and then the news one is like, "Oh yeah, I had the issue the other day because I recorded that one earlier." So,
Very
and then I
nice.
had the issue.
Yeah.
But I will jump in and give this a solid 8 for me. I really enjoyed this film. I was super surprised how much I enjoyed this film. We'll get into where it slides in my rankings in a little bit. But I just got to give it a solid 8. I think it's fantastic. Like I said, a couple issues with Waller and a few things happened, but for the most part, I thought they were really good on the character development for a lot of these characters. And I felt for Boomer because I watched the first movie, but some of the deaths, like Polka Dot Man, where I got to spend some time with him, I really love these characters. I thought James Gunn did a great job with a lot of throwaway characters that we would have probably never seen if we didn't get this movie. So
Yeah.
really good. I'm really, really happy.
All right. Joe, what about you? What is your ranking?
I'm up there with Chris and with Travis. I'm actually gonna put it at a 7.75.
Ooh.
It
You would freaking be that person for a quarter, whatever.
$1.
I'll buy that for $1.
It's a wonderful movie. I loved it. There are a few flaws, and then when we get into the rankings, there's just a few movies that I liked better. So we'll see that here in a minute. But no, it's a great movie. I'm right there with Chris though. Like I'm gonna watch it again before it goes off on off of HBO Max. More than likely 2 or 3 times, at least 2 more times. Like I'll probably watch it sometime this week because I have the week off, and then I'll probably watch it the last week it's on HBO Max. It's a great movie. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. And Greg, what do you think you would rate this movie?
You know, I gave my ranking last night, and I was going to watch it a second time today, which I did, hoping that it was going to move the needle, which it did. Unfortunately, the other way. The other way, yeah. Like I said, first watch is analytical. Second watch is if I can have fun with it, and I didn't have as much fun with it as I thought I was going to. So it went down for me. It's a 6.5. I'm right there with Sarah.
All right, 6.5. And I will go ahead and be there right at Joe and right with Chris. I'm going to say it is a 7.5. I think we lost Travis here.
He just said
He
his
said
power
the
went out.
power went out. Someone screenshot that very quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got
please do, because I
got
saw the lights flicker behind him, and then his eyes went wide, and then he just froze. So it is absolutely.
Oh, damn it!
Missed
No,
it. Darn it. Missed it.
No.
Screenshot.
We will
I
go
got
back-
it.
We'll have to
We
get it
will
on
go
YouTube.
back when the YouTube
Screen
comes
cap it.
out. But Britt actually got it in the chat. Thank you
Yes.
so
I
much.
said I
thought you were
screenshot it
leaving.
on YouTube. Yeah, I got
That
it.
is
He came
gonna
back.
be awesome.
Not that I'm
So
complaining.
so I will go ahead and add this up really quickly, just because this is something that I want to do with all of our scores. Joe, of course, you would have the 7.5, and we are looking at a total of
You're pulling a
Math.
rundown this year. Yeah.
It's gonna be
I know.
right around seven between 7 and 7.7 or 7.5 and 7.75.
7.2 for a
Oh,
rating
lower than I thought.
on this movie.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all.
Which is a good description for the movie, I feel.
Not
And
too
I will
shabby.
say this
Not too
isn't
shabby.
this isn't a -7 whatsoever.
No.
I feel like there's some people that believe that if it isn't a 10 out of 10, then it's a bad thing.
That's
Not at
passing in
all.
America. You know, that's passing. A
Well,
70.
it goes along.
Passing in
I,
America.
I think Chris and Joe can both see. Well, they both know how comic reviewers are, and most recently there has been a lot of reviewers that just throw out those 10s out of 10s, and of course it's most of the time for like, hey, we want to get somebody's attention. Hey, we really love this book, but I also think that it's very important to be critical in a review. That's why I love doing these big reviews with more than just 2 people, more than 3 people, because there will be differences of opinions. Some of them can be wrong, and some of them we can agree with, and I absolutely love it. But what about the letterbox, Sarah? I don't believe you have a letterbox, do you? Or
I made a list.
you made a list? Okay,
I made a list.
so
That's the same thing.
If I need to put one on there, I can, but I made a list.
okay, so where does the Suicide Squad rank in your list? How many do you have in your list?
11.
11. Oh, she's counting the movie
You're
that
counting.
doesn't
You're
exist.
counting both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what number. I mean,
Take
you
off.
know what number 11 is. So I mean, so
That's
can we just
that
like
one.
1 through 10?
where does the Suicide Squad rank in your list?
Put it at 9.
9. Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
And where does that sit between what two movies?
Wonder Woman 84 and the first Suicide Squad.
Okay. And that is kind of where I've been seeing it on Twitter as well for everybody. I think Letterboxd has like really become super popular. I think it was with Black Widow. I didn't even have one until then, and then I made my entire list on that review. So let's go with Chris. What about you? Where does the Suicide Squad land, and what two movies is it between?
All right. Here we go. So I have
Number
changed. I remember when we did Zack Snyder's Justice League, I'm almost certain I put BVS still right above it. But since watching it about, I think 4 times, I've moved it to my number 1 slot. And so as you see there, Suicide Squad is number 5. And yes, the only reason I put Justice League there is because it did come out. It exists. It exists in a can't deny that it didn't happen, but it will forever occupy the last slot at that point. With Suicide Squad, that will change if we ever do get the air cut, and definitely subject to change, as that movie will still be on my list, but again, it'll be in a different slot. 7 and 8, particularly Shazam and Aquaman, can change. It'll flip back and forth at a time, but at the time of this one, I put Shazam right above it. I just have a slightly more higher opinion of it than Aquaman.
Okay.
No.
And Greg, what about you?
Okay, I have mine with a list of 11 as well, and because once again the movie's there, so I include it, and I have it as 9th out of 11 on my list, and it is in between Wonder Woman 84 and the first Suicide Squad movie.
Very, very nice. Travis, welcome back. We screenshotted your hilarious face that was stuck on
You
the
guys
screen.
all start disappearing one by one by one. Kind of like you were in the Suicide Squad.
No.
All
Wait,
getting eliminated.
hold on, Travis.
Yeah.
Who went out first?
I can't remember.
Damn
I was.
Oh,
more
because that
pissed.
would have answered
Exactly.
that would have
It's
answered Snell's question.
Who died? Who got killed first?
Man, that would have been great
What was
if
Snell's
you would have
question?
remembered.
I would miss everything.
So Snell said before we even recorded, he was trying to make a joke about like, oh, I wonder who's gonna get killed off in the review tonight, and nobody understood what he was referencing, and I had to jump in.
So technically, we can say that Travis got killed off first, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Apparently.
Okay.
he was gone. He got killed
Okay.
off first. So welcome back, and we'll go ahead and ask you, Travis, where in the ranking in Letterboxd is it, and what movies is it in between?
Well, since I have some powers here, I'm going to share my screen for the listeners
For the listeners.
and the viewers. Sorry, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Joe. The viewers. This is my list. The top 3, I find it really hard to see them changing anytime soon. I will not say they'll never change.
I know
Open to
they
that.
are.
But the top 3 are BVS, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Man of Steel. Number 4, this is where I had my most trouble, because upon first leaving the theater, I initially had the Squad above Wonder Woman for me. But after watching a second time and going back, it slides just under Wonder Woman. I give Wonder Woman an 8.5. I give the Squad an 8. Then goes Aquaman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, Suicide Squad, and I can't tell you how much I dislike Wonder Woman 84. but you know, anyone who loved it, I'm glad for you. Like the same thing with this. I really love this film. Anyone who didn't love it, I'm sorry, but I really enjoyed almost everything in the DCU. Like I said, minus Wonder Woman 84, I did not enjoy that as much as I'd hoped. But yeah, Suicide Squad,
All right.
fought for top 4, but it ultimately landed in the top 5 at number 5.
All right. And Joe, what about you? Where does it land? What 2 movies?
So it looks like a lot of us have the same top 5, which is kind of nice. I've got it sitting at number 4, currently between Wonder Woman and Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Very,
So,
very.
What
very
are the
nice.
top 2? I got to know.
BVS and Man of Steel.
Nice.
Very nice.
Say it again.
BVS,
Oh.
Man of Steel.
That didn't sound creepy at all. That didn't sound creepy at all. Say it again.
No, that just sounds like. Have you ever seen Lion King?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Do it again. Ooh.
So my ranking here, it ranks number. Count Clay. Let's see here.
It's not hard. There's only 10 of
7.
them.
Not surprising.
Mine ranks number 7 between Shazam and Suicide Squad. I have, of course, Man of Steel and Zack Snyder's Justice League as 1 and 2. I actually had Suicide Squad above Shazam on my first viewing, and then in my second viewing today, I actually moved it down. I really enjoyed Shazam. I love the comedic beats. I love the heart of the film. I hated that deadbeat mom. But overall, I do think that Shazam is the better movie between that and the Suicide Squad. So that is where that lays in my letterbox. But that is it. That is the end of the podcast. Of course, we will go ahead and do our plugs. And then that is it for tonight, guys. So we will go with Chris. Why don't you go first? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Chris Balga and 2 shows on this lovely network, World's Finest True Believers. And you can follow that at Finest Believers and Marvel Alliance at Marvel A Podcast.
Awesome. And Greg, what about you? Where can the people find you?
You can find me at the Bat Daddy 52 on Twitter, also at SCS Podcast 1 for my show, and you can find most of these misfits there every Friday night, live 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. We try to do every Friday, but life gets in the way sometimes. But when we do shows, I said do. When we do shows, it's there's never a good time, like never a time to say do. Like it just isn't. So when we do shows, the audio drops Monday on any podcatcher of your choice. So check us out.
Awesome. Now, a plug that is almost getting as big as mine, Joe.
Ooh,
where can they find you?
Mine.
You can find me personally on Twitter at _actually_. I love it. I love just making you have to shake your head.
I have to do it. It's
Every
like
time,
you've
right?
almost,
It's like
you've almost conditioned me. Whenever I hear it, I just start moving my head for no
I'm
reason.
on the opposite team for that, Clay. I'm on the opposite
and I appreciate
team.
that, Travis. You can find my shows, which are 2 of them are part of this network. I'm part of the Ranger Alliance with Clay. I'll let him handle those later on. But you can also find my newest show, A Walk Through the Multiverse, here every Thursday. Sorry. This not going to be here this week. I'll be on next week, where we will be covering some Transformers stuff. Clay said he's going to try to hop on. Well, I'll get with you on days. Anybody else is welcome to come. We'll try to figure out a day where all of us can get together, because I do record the stuff earlier. So we'll talk. I've got the whole week off, so we'll figure something out. You can find that on Twitter at Walk the Verse, and then you can find my other show, Comic Book Rundown, at Twitter on Twitter at Comic Rundown, and on Instagram at Comic Book Rundown.
Oh, very cool. Electro9 says, just popped in. Hope you all enjoyed the Suicide Squad. I was one of the Starro
That's
victims.
awesome.
That's pretty
I will
darn
go
cool.
ahead. I will go ahead and say this also, something that we didn't really say during the review. The actual Starro mask that landed on everybody's face looked really good.
Looked
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, that's gonna
I don't-
be. I'm gonna make that a cosplay. That's one of my. It's an easy cosplay.
Unfortunately, if COVID wasn't a thing, I do feel like at Comic-Con they would have had those type of masks.
Oh, yeah.
Or
100%.
if somebody can make me a
Also,
COVID
make that
Starro
go-
mask,
Yeah, make that a go. Yeah.
I will pay money for it.
That's like a
So
reverse-
Anybody out there?
That's a reverse Starro mask, though.
Well, that's what I mean. You would have to flip it. You would just have to flip
Yeah.
it downward, so it would latch more so on
So
the mouth.
what you
So-
want is a Rick and Morty. What were those species called, Travis?
There's so
Yeah.
many different. There's so many
Well, the
different
ones-
species.
the ones, and Chris might know this too.
Yeah.
The ones that had like over their face that had the world that they left.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
can't remember
know exactly what
what-
I can't think
Okay,
of it.
because
Yeah.
no, I'm thinking of though. Right? Okay,
Yeah,
Mhm.
100%.
Hey, I wanted to ask Electro in the chat. He said he was a Starro victim. Were you one of the ones that was killed by the people trying to save you, or did you just die after this stuff?
Now, also, I
That-
want,
okay,
I want
hold
to
on.
I get
reiterate.
one
No, no,
last
no.
punch in.
I
One
watched.
last
I
punch.
watched it again today. The goal was to kill Starro. It wasn't to save the people.
What were you going to do? Give them hugs?
but
and
even
take
that.
them down
No,
to
hold
fight
on
ya?
though. Hold on though. Like at that moment, Greg, rewatching it, Bloodsport thought they were already dead. He's literally watching them rise up. They're
Yeah.
already dead.
I
So
get it.
of course he's just gonna kill them. Doesn't matter.
I
They're
get
dead.
I get it.
As a
Bad writing.
Oh,
I get it.
he was
Yeah,
in
that's
one
what
of
it
the
is.
cages.
Yeah.
He
One
was
of the
in one
pages?
of
Oh.
the.
bad nitpick.
Nice.
Bad nitpick.
That's
So-
awesome, man. Thanks for
Good.
thanks for
That's
joining
very
from the
possible
stream.
too. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Sarah, where can the lovely people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at MyLittleKitten. And then also you can find me on Friday nights with Greg on SCS Podcast. Unfortunately, I wasn't there Friday or last night. So, I mean, that's life
You got
happened,
your pay, so.
Yeah. So that's why I thank you very much that I could join you fellas tonight so I could discuss this film since I didn't get an opportunity last night. So thank you very much. And that's pretty much about it. Because I mean, I'm mom and super fan and all kinds of good stuff. So
That
That's about
is
it.
my co-host for the Batman News Weekly podcast.
I was like, what? I was like, wait a second. We doing low
we-
blows here? What's going
me,
on?
me and Juice actually reviewed this movie immediately after our first viewing because we both watched it on HBO Max and had very fresh thoughts on it. We actually had a interesting conversation about Batman versus Superman because people got into an argument with us over TikTok. So that was very interesting.
TikTok
So,
argument.
Go check out Batman News Weekly's most recent episode. Travis, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at Travis_156. You can drop me a line and we can chat about pretty much anything. I also host another show for the network, Superhero Discussions. Snell lit me up from the basement after making me do 2 episodes a week for the last 2 weeks. So I finally got free. No, I'm just kidding. There's just so much good animated stuff to talk about. And that's going to be even more with Marvel getting into the foray now.
Mhm.
I will eventually find my way one day to Marvel Alliance to talk about one episode of What If. I don't know which one, but I will get there at some point. I will hold Chris hostage if I have to. But that's it. You'll look for Rick and Morty. We only have 3 episodes left. Dave from DC On Screen joined myself and Joe this past week, and it was so much fun.
That was great. That was great.
Yeah, so thanks for everyone for checking that out. Those are doing great. So yeah, that's where you can find me. See you on see you on Wednesday.
Yes. So, and of course, you can always find me at FanboyClay on Twitter. Go ahead and check my bio where you can find the link tree to all of my shows, that including DC Alliance, Batman News Weekly, Comic Book Legion Podcast, Weird Science Marvel Podcast, Weird Science DC Podcast, now a guest host on Weird Science Manga Podcast. Almost messed that up. As well as the Ranger Alliance Podcast, which is also a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. That is 7 shows, 1 show for each day of the week. So thank you all who stuck through the entire 2-hour episode here of the Suicide Squad review. What's up, Travis?
One programming note: DC Alliance will not be on live Monday. If you stay till this point in time, we won't be live. I should have said this at the start. We won't be live Monday night, because of this movie review. But we have something special cooked up for Thursday or Friday, so look for that. There's something new dropping that we are really excited to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes. So just keep DC Alliance Twitter feed open, so that way you will know what's going on. But with that, guys, thank you all for showing up here for the review. It was very, very fun. Great comedic moments in this movie. And I'm glad that all of y'all were able to join in on this review. But with that, guys, we will see y'all next week.
Later.
Keep pounding.